So recently I've started to become more and more involved in my guild's, recruiting process with trialing and whatnot. And they'll usually call me in whenever we have a Zerker pull up, and then they'll have me evaluate his skill level and just kind of get an idea whether or not he's, worth the time. And when it comes to succession, I have my boy, Big Dig Zerk come in because he's my ideal suck Zerker. He's really good. He's been playing the class way before like it was even meta. I wouldn't even call it Succession Zerker meta. It's just kind of a gear check class right now, but he was playing it before the rework and he was very good, and he's like my base standard for a judge on a Succession Zerker. If I see things on a Suck Zerker and they're not moving like him, they're not, catching people like him, it's not ideal. It's not ideal because he is solid, and that is that's what peak performance looks like for Succession Zerker on console. So the aim for this video is to kind of give you an idea and help you kind of find and pick a guild that will actually fit very well with your gear score, with your ideology, and just overall like the trial process and what it's like. I'm going to go over do's and don'ts. I'm going to go over what to look for in terms of like, red flags from your end as well. This is not just about, joining the guild or finding the right guild. Like it is, but like in terms of like, let's say you want to join Sacred or something, like the #1 guild. It's unrealistic if you don't have the gear score and thumbs to do so. You need to find something that works for you in terms of like your ideology, community sense, as well as professionalism. So I'm going to use past experiences, and these are, again, take it with a grain of salt because I'm only going to be using me as an example because that's what I know best. So remember, grain of salt, and this is going to be what I deem good and what I, would deem as bad as well. These are all, quotations here. So the first thing I'm going to say is you need to value yourself as a player as well as your gear score. And I don't mean this in an egotistical way where you're like, I'm a fucking god. No. I want you to be reasonable and realistic. Like for me, I value myself as a mid to high tier berserker. I was taught by Guido the best, but I'm nowhere near his skill level at all. He is just like, he's surgical with the sticks, and I'm just, my hands are a little shaky. I'm not doing heart surgery with the goddamn Zerker, but I can fix a sprained ankle if I wanted to. These are very weird examples. What the fuck? My point is I'm not the best berserker in the game, but I've been playing long enough and have talked with the best and fought with the best before. Therefore, I have experience and knowledge on the class, and usually I can spot a fake Zerker or spot a Zerker that is way below average. So you keep it modest and you keep it reasonable. So just value yourself in some degree. If you're like, well, I lose a little bit in the ones. My small scale, I do pretty well. I drop a couple kills. So you're like, take that into consideration. Okay. That's not, it doesn't mean you're bad, and it doesn't mean you can't get better, but take that into consideration, because if that's how you're performing, maybe you want to look for a guild that's on the lower spectrum so that way you can grow and learn with them. If you're not really that good and you're not surgical with the sticks, right? You want to take that into consideration so that way you don't, waste your time in the enemy, or not the enemy. Why am I saying enemy? The guild's trial process, because you're wasting their time as well. If you're not good and you're not up to their standards, and just because you want to join their guild because they're, oh, I heard this guild is really good, I want to join him and then be a part of the best squad, but you can't fit in there, then you're wasting their time, and you're also wasting your time because you have an unrealistic idea and want to be a part of a good guild, but you're not good enough to be in that guild. And that sounds mean, but that's the truth. If you're not good enough to be in that guild, you're not good enough to be in that guild, and the trial process will eliminate you from that. So please evaluate yourself and figure out where you belong in the totem pole, and then just go from there. Now, let's paint a scenario so that way we have some kind of example to go off of. I'll use my past gear score. So let's say that this was like last year when I started to get into PvP around like earlier in the year. Let's say you're a 6'10 berserker looking for a Node War Siege guild. My skill level, I'm pretty okay. I'm like slightly above average. I'm nothing crazy. All right. That's my evaluation of myself, and my gear score is 6'10. So that's pretty decent for last year anyway. But by today's standards, 6'10 is kind of a given, and it's okay. So I advertise in chat, 6'10 berserker looking for Node War Siege guild. All right. I get a couple PMs and they're like, hey, come through, we'll trial. And then I pick one and okay, I'm going to come trial. They tell me to come to battle arena, whatever. And then they start the trial process. This is where you as a player start evaluating as well. Remember, the trial is not just for you to get into the guild, but to see if this guild is a good fit for you. If you get a community vibe that's just not really aligning with your shit and you're just like, nah, this is kind of fucked up, I don't really like this, or like let's say they're being mean, for example. Like you start the trial and then you lose one match and then some guy makes like a really snarky remark or just kind of snide and is not really motivating or at least giving you like a chance, right? And he's just being kind of a dick. That's not an environment I want to be a part of. Even if it's a really top tier guild and it's really good and I've heard that, you know, they're really strong. I don't care if they're strong. If I can't vibe with this guild, because I like being in parties, I like talking with people, I like being, you know, with friendly and whatnot. That's what I enjoy. So I don't care if like they're really strong and they're like the best guild in the game. But if I can't vibe with their personality, I don't want to be a part of it. I give no cares. I'll take an L every single day of the week, but as long as I'm in a party having fun and laughing, that's what it's about for me. So you also need to take the community aspect into consideration. So like I said, when they're trialing you, get a feel for the vibe, you know, like see if they're kind of, you know, maybe make a conversation, be like, oh wow, that was really cool. Like let's say they beat you in a 1v1 real quick and they did something crazy, just kind of like give them props and see how they, you know, how they react to that. If they're like, I didn't even do anything crazy, shut up, or something like that, that's a bad vibe, genuinely a bad vibe, and I would immediately stop the trial right there and I would walk the fuck away. So back to the trialing process, outside of the community vibe and just the overall like sense of, you know, whether they're mean or not, you also want to see how they trial. What is their process? So I'm going to use two examples. I'm going to use Electric, which is the guild that I'm in right now, trial process, versus a guild back in the day that I joined and their process, which I will say Electric's process way better than the other guild. So I'll give the bad example first. So when I trialed for this guild, they did one thing and one thing only. They sent in a succession wizard to fight me, and one, I outgeared them, and two, I definitely outskilled them by a lot. At the time, I didn't really know better because I was a noob with PvP, so I was just like, oh, I beat this guy. Cool, I'm better, I'm in, yay. And it's all cool and you're all happy that you beat the trial guy. And then it's like, that's a bad way to trial because it doesn't tell you anything. It's like, cool, a Zerker beat a wizard, a succession wizard anyway. It's like, we win that matchup. We have a grab, we have range, we had a lot of damage with seismic. So it's like, if we burned his TP and everything, we just ran up in seismic and they die instantly. And the fact that I outgeared him too was like the biggest issue. So it's like, they sent him in to trial me and I just beat the dog shit out of him, and it felt good because I was like, cool, this is my first time like getting in a real PvP scenario. Woo, I beat the trial guy. But now having more of a professional standpoint and knowledge of what a trial should look like, that is nothing. It tells you nothing. Just because you can beat one guy in a trial, how the fuck is that valuable to a siege guild? How the fuck is that valuable to a node war? Like, you're not 1v1ing in a node war. It doesn't work like that. So that's like the biggest problem that I have with that trial, is that they have no idea how to evaluate whether a person is going to be valuable in the large scale scenario. They just sent one guy in, he lost miserably, and that was it. That's all she wrote. That's not how you trial. That's not how you should trial, because it tells you nothing. It literally tells you nothing about their capability of adapting. It doesn't tell you that they're skilled. It doesn't tell you whether or not they're going to be valuable in a large scale scenario. It does nothing. It virtually tells you nothing. Now, the way we trial in Electric, which is pretty reasonable, I would say, we usually get about 15 people and we dogpile all over the fuck here, like just like in this arena usually, and we will you know, trade 1v1s every you know, 5 rounds or something like that. And we'll send varying gear score, varying classes against you, and then we'll see how you adapt and move and work with, like, you know, people. And that's like what we look for, is whether or not you're moving properly, whether or not you're able to do combos, and we check your gear score, because people lie about their gear score all the fucking time. Like, we had a guy like a while back who said his gear score was like, I don't know, 620 something. And then I was like, okay, and he was a Zerker. So they called me in to check it out and see what's going on. And I immediately failed him. I saw one match and I failed him. And that's usually bad, but I could tell he was lying about his gear score, because we sent in one of our lower gear score members who was a squishy class, and he could not one combo them. And I failed him on the spot. Because like we still kept trialing him just for the sake of, like, you know, just because I failed him right away doesn't mean that we're gonna stop the trial and be like, yeah, you're out already. But I already knew he wasn't going to make it, and he didn't. He didn't make it. He lost every single 1v1. He lost every scenario. There was no hope. He lied about his gear score, and he's not surgical with the sticks. Therefore, I had to fail him. So even though we still gave him the benefit of the doubt and let him trial another like 7 more people, it just didn't matter. He just couldn't do it. He didn't have it. And the problem was, like, his gear score, he could lie about his gear score. You know, I've done that. I've lied about my gear score before to get into a guild because I wanted to really be in the guild. I've done that. But the thing is, I was still I could fake it till I make it because one, Zerker Seismic, I knew how to use that. I know how to use Seismic back in the day. So it's like, I could fake it till I make it. You know, that's actually feasible. However, you can only do it to a certain degree. You can't say I'm 645 and then like you're only 261 AP. There is a very distinct, you know, tell whether or not that's actually viable. So for me, I could lie about my AP. I could say I'm 301 AP and then 290. I could make 290 look like 301 if I wanted to. I could physically do that with buffs, droughts, and sieges and node wars and still I can drop Stormtrooper with 290 AP and then say I'm 301 and people would believe me. So if you're gonna fake it till you make it, you have to do it in a way that, you know, is feasible. I'm not saying you should do it because you shouldn't. You shouldn't, because we can tell. And that is the process of what we do. We send in varying gear scores. Sometimes we'll send in one of our top gear score members to gauge whether or not they actually do have AP. If they say their AP is 281, we'll send in one of our high gear score or at least high DP players. We'll maybe send in a striker, or maybe we'll send in one of our higher gear score warriors or something like that. And we'll see. We'll see. If he's actually 281, he should have no problem comboing. Like, let's say, for example, me. At 281, you can kill me with 347. However, if you cannot one combo me at 347 DP with 281, then you are lying about your gear score, especially as a Zerker. And that's what happened with that guy. He could not one combo me. He would do like the lamest combo too, which he probably could kill me, but his combo was so bad. I'm going to show you what he did. He did boom, 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 boom. And then like, that was what he did. He didn't do ground lifting ever. And that is the core thing with Zerker, is ground lifting. It procs our add-on. So look at this, boom. See that down there? That's a crit add-on. That is what you're supposed to do. You want that crit, because that is what's going to give your Seismic a big damage boost. Not only that, but you do FD, because this gives you your 16 AP buff. That's what you want. So you do boom, 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 and then you go right into Slugfest and you have all these buffs on and you do a lot of damage. And he did not do that. And that is why I failed him on the spot, because he did one, some Mickey Mouse combo that sucked dick. And then two, he didn't have the gear score, because I could tell he didn't have the gear score, because at 280, FD hits fucking hard as shit. So I failed him. That's what it was. He lied about his gear score, which is already a bad look. And two, he couldn't fake it and make it. It just didn't work. So whenever you try and lie about your gear score, take into consideration that guilds have ways to tell if you're lying, especially when they have an expert in the class. If you're a Zerker and you start lying to try and get into Electric, they're gonna call me in. And if you're a Succession Zerker, I'm gonna call in Big Dick Zerk to judge you. And that's just what it is. Like, I can tell. I will literally be able to tell whether or not you are worth a damn. So yeah, that is Electric's filter out, trial process. We send in multiple classes, multiple gear scores, and skill levels too. We won't send in like the top tiers. Maybe we'll send in the lower spectrum of our gear score pool as well as skill level. Maybe we have a guy that's like 610 gear score, right? And he's not really that great. He averages like maybe 30 kills every node war and siege, which is it's reasonable. That's reasonable. So he's on the lower spectrum of the guild, and we'll send him in. If you mop the shit out of him, we're not going to give you a lot of points for that, but at least you can win. So good. We'll give you some credit where credit's due. But now we know you can mop the shit out of a noob guy, or not necessarily noob, but lower skilled player. So now we're going to up it up a little bit and send in one of our good guys. If you mop the shit out of him, big boy points. All right? And even if you don't win against the big boy, then okay, we don't hold that against you. He's one of the best. So we put you in that mid-tier section where you're like, okay, you're above average, and that's good. Remember, the trial is not always about winning. It's not always about you have to beat everybody. It don't work like that, because not everybody is perfect. And like I said, not everybody's surgical with the sticks. So therefore, we have to take that into consideration. So with that being said, the trial process, in my opinion, the way Electric does it is really good. Different scenarios, different classes, different play styles, different skill level, and different gear score. You get an idea as to how they deal with all of it. If there's somebody gear checking them, do they adapt? Can they find a way around it? And if they can, great. If they're beating one of our lower gear score members, we know that they're at least not at the bottom and not, one of our, gearlets or skill cap players. You know what I mean? So they're like above average. That's good. We get a lot of, data and understand whether or not they're worth a damn, is what I'm trying to say. And that's kind of like where it ends right there. That once you get to the trial process, whether or not you feel comfortable from a community standpoint, as well as, how they handle things in a professional manner, that's when you can decide whether or not you want to go through. If they pass you and say, hey, you're good enough to get in, it's still your decision. You could maybe say, okay, I'm going to check my options real quick, but if I don't think I have any better options, I'm going to come back and then I'll give you a heads up. Remember though, like I said, if you're trying out for guilds that usually don't have a lot of room, your spot might get taken, so don't get too willy-nilly. But if you pass, that's great. There's not really much else to guild. You just want a good community and a good professional vibe. That's really what you're looking for. And the way they handle things is how you're going to decide whether or not it's a good fit for you. So anyway, that's going to cover the guild guide. There's a lot more to it from just, personal experiences and stuff. But honestly, we're trying to keep it professional here. And you're trying to find a good guild that will be a good fit for your gear score and your personality. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you guys want me to start recording trials and then put them up as like a video for commentary and whatnot. And we'll just kind of go over things and you can see how, a decent trial goes. But that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.